Well, thank you so much. Okay, so I think I don't know how well everybody knows Wonder, so I definitely want to talk about that deal. 142 million in cash, and you bought 500 million of its debt.
Yeah, we assumed that 500 million of debt.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought we could just kind of back up a second and talk a little bit about what you're building, pre-Grubhub. So you had come to a
taco shop, basically.
Yeah, I know. I heard
I'm
when
always
Ben said
looking
that.
for
I was
money.
like, I
Ben
wonder if
said
Marc
that. I mean, we've got a
takes issue
taco
with that.
shop in, and a pizza shop, and a burger shop.
But you started off with sort of like fine dining in the suburbs with like Sprinter vans, or is that not sort of like a fair characterization?
Yeah, fine dining and fast casual.
Yeah,
both.
okay.
So, like 30 different restaurant cuisines. So some are fast casual and some are fine dining.
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, okay.
Now you can.
And then you pivoted and you started opening these stores. And you have several dozen in the Northeast US, and you want to have like 100 by the end of next year.
Yes.
So tell me about these stores, because that's so interesting. And it seems like you're going into pretty urban areas, or what's the sort of
urban,
there?
suburban, ex-urban. The less densely populated, the better the model works. So we do really well in less densely populated areas because we're bringing restaurant assortment that doesn't exist there. So the beauty of the model is that in a 2,800 square foot kitchen, we could put 30 different restaurants, 600 unique meals across every cuisine type, from fine dining to fast casual, steakhouse, barbecue, burgers, Thai, Mexican, Chinese, like all in one place. We own all the restaurants and we own the delivery. So it's completely vertically integrated. So you get a great experience. You could order from multiple restaurants in a single checkout, and you can get it fast, on time. It's a tight 6-minute delivery radius. So as soon as it's cooked, courier's there, we time everything, and the food's out, and everybody in the family could order something different.
It's so fascinating. So you said you own the restaurants, but it's really restaurants within sort of a center that's a little bit farther out where you're kind of like pre-cooking the food? I mean, is that...
Yeah, so the actual locations close to the customer look like a high-end fast casual. So it's got seating, pickup, kiosks, and then a kitchen in the back. The kitchen has only 2 pieces of electric cooking equipment. There's no hoods, no gas, no stoves, no flames, no chefs. But the food is all fresh and it's all being cooked. So that's a little bit of the magic of the model, and that's the invention, is that we've systematized the cooking of 600 different meals across every cuisine with the same equipment platform. So when we go into an area, we could take a restaurant out or add a new one into that location without any expense. So we could have 30 restaurants in one location and a completely different set of 30 in another location. It really depends on the demographics and also what the local restaurant available to the customer is in that area.
So interesting. So because of the way you're cooking this food, again, starting the process somewhere else, shipping it into these locations, finishing it off there.
Yes.
You don't need like exhaust fans.
Because everything's electric.
Everything's
so there's
electric,
no
right?
gas, yeah.
So you can move into like a
You
shoe
can cook
store.
a steak in 6 minutes to perfect temperature, seared on both sides perfectly. We can cook pizza in 88 seconds. We can cook branzino, salmon, brisket. We can cook just about anything now.
Obviously it's very data driven. You've got a very data driven background. You previously, sold your company to Amazon, and you sold another company to Walmart, and I'm sure it's all numbers in your brain. First of all, how many people work for Wonder at this point? And also relatedly, how many of them are from either Amazon or Walmart?
So in corporate, maybe 300 people, but in total over 1,000 people, including the people working at the restaurants.
And what has your data shown you? What won't you make for them?
What type of food? We pretty much figured out everything now. There's really nothing. There's really nothing we haven't figured out. But it's taken 6 years and $1 billion of investment to figure it out. So it's been quite a road. It took every individual meal took a long time. To cook pizza in 88 seconds, or to cook pasta without water, or wok fried Chinese without a wok. I think it took a lot of iteration to get there, but now it's all systematized. So.
And so you can walk in. There's not a lot of seating though, so most of it is sort of takeout or delivery. Can I ask how many people here have been in a Wonder? Just one or just a couple? Okay, great. So
Damn, we got a lot of upside. Are you all from New York? This is wow.
well, how many do you have in New York? I saw it in Chelsea.
We opened our 31st location this week in the New York Metro. So
Okay.
Westchester, Northern New Jersey. I think pretty much every address in Manhattan is covered now within the tight radius. But it's amazing how big the market is that nobody's tried it. The locations are doing 3 times the volume of an average fast casual. So like the numbers are incredible, but I guess there's still a lot of upside because no one here knows what it is. So.
Yeah. Oh, but
I'm not doing a good job of marketing.
But I guess what percentage of your customers right now are walking in and getting food versus ordering for delivery?
Like 50% pickup and 50% delivery, roughly.
Okay.
Only a few percent sit down. Like lunchtime, people will come and sit and have lunch there, but it's usually takeaway.
And who are you competing against? Is it Kava, Chipotle? Is it Ghost? Or is it Cloud Kitchens?
I mean, it's like a little bit of everything. I think it's just people who want a high quality food experience and everyone in the family wants to eat something different. That's really the primary use case. It's really high quality food, dependable, fast, at really good value too. So we don't have all these crazy fees that you get on, the other delivery platforms because we're vertically integrated. So we have the full margins of the food and we pass that on to the customer. So you can get a Bobby Flay steak, filet, 10 ounce, incredible steak for $35. The same steak is $55 in the restaurant. If you go on a delivery platform, they'll not only take the restaurant price, they typically mark it up, and then they charge all the service fees and delivery fees. If you go on Wonder, the fees are very low. The prices are lower than you typically find in a restaurant, and it's delivered. We have 95% on-time delivery within a 5-minute window because it's vertically integrated. So we know when you're going to get it. It's going to come hot. It's going to come fast, and you're going to have the variety. So it's.
Are those prices sustainable? I mean, I think that is a huge complaint with delivery recipients. They've said, we started it was all great, and now it costs way too much. So the whole industry is sort of nosediving. You have worked for companies that have, competed very aggressively on price. So is that sort of?
We're not really even being aggressive. Like we still have really high margins, but the food itself only costs in the 20% of revenue. So there's a lot of money to play with. And so we're able to, give really good value and deliver it to customers at a better price as well. The tight delivery radius helps reduce the cost of delivery. The fact that we've got higher average order value helps because people ordering branzino, salmon, steaks, they're ordering fine dining food and it's coming fast. Mm-hmm. That lifts the average order value, which is better for the delivery economics and that sort of thing. So the overall value is there. So you got value, you got speed, you got quality. The food matches the best restaurants in the area. So I feel pretty good about it so far. But it wasn't always that way.
Well, I was going to say, customers are tough. I did go online and look at some of the reviews, and there's lots of accolades, and like I've had good experiences and bad experiences at every restaurant. But some of them are like, it's okay, but it's reheated. I guess I wonder how much time do you sort of focus on improving the product that you already have versus because you're in such an aggressive expansion mode.
Yeah, well, fortunately it's systematized, so the consistency is the same location to location, which is great. But we're maniacal about the quality. So we get taste scores from customers every day, 0 to 10, and the chefs every morning they're looking at the taste scores, they're reading the comments, and we're constantly working on. Anything below an 8.8 at a 10 taste score, they're reworking it. Why? What do we need to do to change it? And constantly putting it back in the market, and the scores over time are going up. It's really high quality. This is not reheated food. It's going to be like, if you got barbecue, it's going to be like as if you're in Texas getting barbecue. If it's, fried chicken, it's like this great place from Mississippi, that we've got, Mr. D's. It's food quality is good, if not better, than you find anywhere else.
And I guess I was going to ask what your bestseller is, but I'm guessing it depends on the market. So what are some of the bestsellers and in what markets?
It does depend. The Tejas brisket is one of our better sellers. That does really well. The Bobby Flay steak does really well. Of course, burgers and pizza and fried chicken and stuff like that. But I would say brisket and steak are the two things you wouldn't think of as being sort of top sellers, but on Wonder they are.
And do you talk about, I guess, how many meals you're making a day at this point?
We haven't really talked about it, but we have 31 locations, call it a few hundred meals per location. So, it's like 10,000 meals a day, I guess.
You're asking an English major.
Yeah.
I think what is so interesting about what you're building is sort of like, I think you have described it as, or you want it to be like the Amazon of food and beverage. And it is fascinating to me that you've got all these pieces. So you've got Wonder, now you have this delivery network, which I want to talk to you more about. You also have these licensing deals, I think, to license your tech to like sports arenas and other, like, I guess Walmart.
We have like a B2B business. So we have
the B2B
a business where we'll open up Wonder locations inside of a Walmart. So it's a smaller one. There's 10 restaurants in 1,000 square feet and like the size of a Subway. We have a B2B business where we basically sell our ovens and sell our food to stadiums, arenas. We're in Yankee Stadium, Toyota Stadium, Javits Center, and then they will just cook the food fast using our equipment, but it's all white label. So we won't use the Wonder brand or the restaurant brands. It's all white. That's like our AWS. It's sort of like we invested in all this tech. Might as well sell it to other businesses.
Well, AWS is a huge business. So is this expected to become a huge business, or is this just sort of like a nice little, like another revenue generator?
No, I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge business. Absolutely. Any off-premise, any sort of like place, could be stadiums, arenas, hotels, hospitals, theme parks, like anywhere that's not a standard place to eat. That equipment should be there because you don't need a lot of labor. It's consistent. It's high quality. It's a great price. So yeah, we think it could be massive. That business alone.
So tell me, maybe in like 3 to 5 years, because I know you want to take this company public. What is going to be the biggest business for Wonder? Are we going to all know about it because it's that place that's in our neighborhood where we can go pick out like a variety of foods, or because
we'll have hundreds of locations in a few years around. So be in every neighborhood. But I think what we'll ultimately be known for, the big vision is to be the super app for mealtime and to have an AI-based, Gen AI overlay that will basically get to a point where it knows your food preferences, knows your health goals, knows what you're allergic to, gets your data from your Oura Ring or whatever other wearable you have, gets your blood tests, and AI basically both manages your health because it knows from your blood results you have high mercury, you shouldn't eat tuna, but it also knows the food you love and basically gets to a point where it just tells you what to eat every meal without you having to think about it. So you just wake up, AI says have this for breakfast, you do it. Lunch, you do it. Dinner, you do it. You know you're eating healthy, you know you're meeting your health goals, but you're also loving the food because the AI knows you as well as you know yourself and knows what food you like, when you like to eat them, but at the same time knows, okay, this is your current blood glucose level. If you're monitoring that, there's different levels that you can take this to. Now at Wonder, we'll have the platform to be able to deliver food any which way you want it. So it could be a cooked meal from us. It could be a delivered meal from a local restaurant. It could be a meal kit, an oven-ready meal from our Blue Apron business. It could be a restaurant reservation you make through Wonder, and you go to the restaurant, and AI tells you what to order off the menu because it's keeping track of everything for you. Or groceries get delivered to your door at 4 o'clock. You don't know what's coming. The groceries come, and the recipe comes, and you basically make what AI tells you. It sounds maybe crazy or far-fetched and think, well, I'm not going to listen to AI. Well, it'll get so smart that it'll be you. It'll be better than you. It'll remember things that you like that you couldn't even think of. How do I know? Because I've done it. So the last 2 years, almost 3 years, every single meal, I don't know what I'm eating until I sit down. So, and it's absolutely unbelievable. Freeing. I love every meal. I know it fits my health goals. I know I'm staying healthy. And I just couldn't imagine going back to having to actually think about what I'm going to eat for a meal.
That is fascinating. I mean, like a lot of, working parents, I will say it's the biggest, pain point of my day. I'm like, God, I've got to figure out dinner again, or,
Don't ever
even
have
if we're
to think
buying,
about it.
yeah. I
Just
have to
text the
ask,
time. That's it.
yeah. How fully baked, if you'll forgive the terrible restaurant metaphor, was this plan from the outset? I mean, because there's so much going on, and I wonder how much of this was the vision from the beginning, or you're kind of going on a path, and then you see other ways to kind of, augment the business, and
I think it's like a piece of clay, and you just keep molding it over time. But the big vision was there from the beginning, but you just don't know what the right strategy is to get there. And so you start, and build this sort of foundation and build a core competency, build the moat around it, and then you start seeing the offshoots and trying to stitch it all together. But I think it's important to have that big vision from the outset, so that every move you make, you're like pushing in that direction. And I think the vision from the outset was just really big, and you had to take it into its component pieces. You couldn't do it all at once, right? It would have been impossible. So that's why we acquired Blue Apron and now acquired Grubhub, and trying to like put the pieces together to build a super app platform so we can deliver everything to satisfy the ultimate vision of being able to manage your what you eat and your health in a way that's never been done before.
So I want to talk about Grubhub. I also just wanted to remind those of you here that Marc is willing to stick around and answer a couple questions, not endlessly, because I think he is very tired. But so think of things that I'm not asking that I should be asking, and ask them. But okay, so Grubhub, so interesting, big business. Obviously, it sold for a lot less than it sold to Just Take Away a few years ago. It sold for what, like $7.3 billion. The company, my understanding from what I've read, didn't really invest in marketing. That was one challenge. Also, DoorDash got bigger, and then the whole market, again, just as the home fitness market in our last conversation kind of sort of took a downward turn, so did food delivery after the pandemic ended. So some might say interesting. It's a little bit like catching a falling knife. Why did you think that this was the right time to buy this company at this price?
Yeah, I mean, we're not buying it as a standalone business, so I think that's the first thing, is that when we look at the synergies between the two businesses, that's what gets us really excited. So Grubhub has 375,000 restaurants on their platform, and remember, our big vision is to have our first-party restaurants on Wonder. That brings in the customer, builds a unique relationship. We own the delivery. Now that we have the customer, we wanted to add local restaurants to the Wonder platform as well. What would have taken us 10 years to get 375,000 restaurants at a lot of money, overnight, full access to Grubhub's restaurant supply. So that's like a big asset. They've got a great college program. They've got Seamless, a great, they're in 10,000 businesses still. So we have a first party offering that we can, bring to those businesses. The order density, being able to put a Wonder location in an area and already have delivery density from Grubhub to build off of makes the cold start problem go away for us on the delivery side. So just looking at all the assets and how it accelerates Wonder, and at the same time will help Grubhub by giving Grubhub unique assortment of Wonder restaurants and offer multi-restaurant ordering of Wonder restaurants on Grubhub. There's a lot of shared synergies on the back end. Obviously the tech platform and service support areas and things. So when you kind of look at the whole picture, it's very, very attractive to us. But on a standalone basis, I think the math looks a lot different.
I'm sorry, say that
on a standalone basis, it'll look a lot different.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at buying it on its own and
Sure.
just running it, that would be much harder.
And also brings you more maybe beverage delivery. I mean, I think when
Yeah.
that quote was the Amazon of food and beverage, and I thought that's interesting because I don't really know what the beverage strategy is.
Right.
We're going to hear more about that in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And when I say Amazon of, it's not, it's really the Amazon playbook of first party to win third party. So Amazon started, they built the infrastructure, they built warehouses. I remember in the early days of e-com, people thought eBay was going to beat Amazon. And they said, well, it's capital light. Amazon's burning a lot of cash. They're building these warehouses. They don't make a lot of margin on their first party business. But then after they had the first party and won the customer, then they made all their money on third party. So I think it's a similar type of strategy that we're employing, which is, really focus on this incredible first-party customer experience. But once you have the customer, offer them all the local restaurants as well.
So I guess at some point, it does sound a little bit like Wonder is a really smart, attractive. I think the word ghost kitchen has become sort of pejorative, but almost ghost kitchen-esque. I'm sorry.
We don't like that word.
You don't like that word?
We do not like that word. There's been too many,
bad associations.
Yeah. And it's not ghost in that it really doesn't resemble a ghost kitchen in that ghost kitchens typically aren't located in the heart of where people live. They don't typically have seating. They don't typically own their own app. They don't typically own their own delivery. They don't typically own the restaurants. So the classic ghost kitchen is not located where the customer is. They cook some food. They sell it on DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. They don't own the customer relationship. They don't actually own the delivery. And nobody actually sees where they actually exist because they're like ghost and they do some kitchen. That's the typical thing. And they don't own the restaurants. They typically will license brands. So if that ghost is over here, we're all the way over here.
But you're a better version of it, sounds like. Again, we can get rid of that term, but it is sort of like the idea, but done in a way that's much more palatable to people and much more marketable and closer to them.
We're just 30 restaurants in one. So we're much closer to, we have a Chipotle competitor, we have a Kava competitor, we have a Sweetgreen competitor, we have a Five Guys competitor. We have and own a fast casual or fast fine restaurant in every vertical, and it looks very much like that. It's just 30 of them in one location. So the only thing we really share with the ghost kitchen is that we have multiple restaurants in the same location. That's really it. We're much, I think, closer to just being a restaurant group that owns a restaurant chain in every vertical. Instead of being all standalone, we managed to get them all in one place.
Well, I think it's fascinating. And I know you want to take the company public, and I read, this might have been in March, so maybe the number has changed, that you wanted to take it public at a $30 billion valuation by maybe 2026?
2028.
2028, okay. Why that number?
30 billion?
Yeah.
Well, now it's 40 billion with Grubhub, so it changes. I think it's really important, to have not only a vision for the customer and for the business, but also have a vision for the financial outcome that you're trying to get, because you got to work backwards from that. So when people don't have a number or they don't even think about 3, 4, 5, 10 years out, then it's hard to work backwards. So we basically put a stake in the ground and said, we see a path, we have a plan to get to a $30 billion IPO in Jan 28, and then we just kind of work backwards from that. And so does it mean it's going to be 30 billion exactly in January 28? No, but we're on a trajectory that is that order of magnitude, right? And so maybe it's 20, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50, but it's in the rough time period and the rough size, because that tells you how much capital you need to raise and how fast you need to grow, and start making sure that you have the TAM to support it. You have the margin profile to support that sort of multiple and stuff. You have to figure all that stuff out. But you have to have a roadmap, and you have to know what is each round of financing going forward going to look like, at what valuation, what are you going to do with the capital, is it going to make sense to investors? You kind of have to have that all mapped out. I call it the capital plan in my VCP framework, Vision Capital People. There's a C, the capital. You got to map out the capital plan, and that's what we did from the beginning. Here's the plan. Here's each round. My goal is always to double the amount of money raised and double the share price with every round, every 18 months. That's it's just a guiding principle. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but I could just look back at my 3 companies. It's pretty close to doubling the raise and the price every round. So that's
so interesting. And I had read today that the Grubhub deal, I'm sure it wasn't the primary motivator, but that revenue was sort of part of your calculation in terms of raising again. right? Was that part of your attacking that revenue onto whatever you're also already producing is going to help you to raise your next round or close your next round?
Oh yeah, there's always got to be a catalyst to raising. Yeah.
And also, Mark, I'm sorry to ask a question that I'm sure you have answered 10 times today alone, but I mean, how important is it to you just to get a company public? You've had these amazing outcomes with your last two companies.
Yeah.
Was that sort of also the kind of, when you started this, you're like, no way am I ever gonna sell this thing, or how strongly do you feel about it?
I don't think you should ever have those absolutes like that. I think, like I said, you have a 5-year plan or whatever, 10-year plan, and then a 5-year plan. And the plan is eventually, since you're raising capital, you're going to need to get liquidity for shareholders. So the easiest way to do that is to think about an IPO. And so you kind of work toward that. It's just a stepping stone, the IPO, into sort of the next phase. But it is a good milestone to say you've gone far enough that you've made it enough to meet the bar of going public. So I think you kind of work backwards from an IPO. If you get an offer, like we did from Walmart at Jet at the time we did, you have to stop and think and make a decision. Is this the right decision? Is this the right time to get off? And it's a financial decision for shareholders, but it's also, in the case of Walmart, is the vision still intact? In that case, we had a higher probability of reaching our vision. We weren't sacrificing anything. We were just going to get the power of Walmart to combine with Jet to create Walmart e-com. So in that case, it was an easier decision. Selling to Amazon was a much harder decision because it wasn't that. You were basically selling the vision for some cash. And sometimes you have to do that, and they were coming after us, and that was the first, real exit in my life, and it was real money, and those things come into play, and it certainly did back then.
And I assume you learned a lot from those companies. Does anyone have questions? I don't know if we had great. Sorry, I didn't know if we had a microphone in the audience.
2 questions. Oh, it's really close there. What are some of the biggest challenges you see as you build out the company? And when are you expanding into Long Island?
So Long Island is next year. I think we start coming into Long Island early next year. But by the end of next year, I think there might be 15 or 20 locations on Long Island. So yeah, we're opening another 70 locations in the next 15 months. So a lot of those are on Long Island, Connecticut, and sort of other places in the metro area. But biggest challenge, when you're scaling as fast as we're scaling, we're opening 1 location a week right now, and 26 we'll go to 2 locations a week. It all comes down to execution, and execution comes down to people, and people come down to culture and org structure. It's and performance management system. You have to have the foundational elements in place to be able to recruit, retain, motivate, and get the best out of the best people. And since execution is your biggest risk, and people are the ones doing the executing, I always go back to the fundamentals. In the VCP framework, that's the P part. But it's not only being able to recruit great people, but it's how do you get the best out of them? And do you have the right performance management system, the right compensation system, the right set of behaviors, values, mission statement, things that really motivate people when you get all the things right? That's so underrated in companies. People don't spend enough time on it. If I talk about it a little, put it in a drawer, but you got to really live it every day to keep people motivated to give their best. Because there's a lot of really good people that work at companies that don't give their best. I know I've worked at companies before where they weren't getting the best I had to give. I just wasn't that motivated. But you get somebody who's really good at what they do, and they're motivated to give you their very best, that's when magical things happen. And so you have that part of it is really important, but the other foundational piece that's underrated is organizational structure, making sure the org structure ties to the most important strategies within the company. And you got the right people in the right spots with the right level of accountability and ownership. So that also adds to their happiness as well. So you kind of have to get all the fundamentals right. to be able to scale a company that fast and not fall down on execution.
Congratulations on your new COO, by the way.
Oh,
Tony
thank
from
you.
the head of grocery from Amazon.
Yes.
That's great. Did you know
Yes.
him beforehand?
I didn't. No, I came to know him in the process. Been talking to him for a while, and just thought he would be an incredible addition to the team. And in his first week, he has been.
Oh boy. How about, I don't know, Mark, how much time you have, but
Actually, okay.
So I'd be curious to understand that you're part owner of the Timberwolves, right? And you talk about AI and nutrition and how you don't make a meal anymore, right? You have this great system behind
Yeah.
it, right?
That's
So
the real secret, by the way, is the players have to listen to the AI. They're not allowed to eat anything unless AI tells them.
That was exactly where I was going to
Yeah,
go.
no more French fries and fried chicken for these guys. They're gonna eat whatever AI tells them.
Branzino every night.
So I imagine then there's a thought to take it to other sports franchises and roll
Yeah, I
it
mean,
out
this
as far as
is.
nutrition.
I mean, I really believe that AI can help change the world and really make the world a much healthier, happier place. Like, just food is medicine. If you can just give a little agency to AI to make those decisions for you, I mean, you'll not only be much healthier and live a healthier life, but also enjoy the food you're eating, because AI knows both. It knows what you like, what your preferences are, and also what food is right for your body at that time. And what's right for you might not be right for somebody else. That's what's really exciting about AI. It can literally, be monitoring your system every day and telling you, hey, you didn't have a good night's sleep last night, and we know from the last 3 times you didn't have a good night's sleep, you ate X. We think you're probably allergic or some sensitivity to scallops, because the last 3 times you ate it, your sleep score was 20% worse than it typically was. Like, you're not going to do that yourself. You're never going to draw those connections like that. But imagine if you just had somebody working in the background for you, knowing everything you eat, how it affects your blood sugar, how it affects your sleep, how it affects your blood results, your gut biome, and it's constantly getting smarter and smarter to give you more energy, but also feed you the foods that you love. So that's the thing. It's not a diet plan. It's just how you live your entire life.
How are
It
you?
is you in your brain. It's.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
Yeah.
How are you moving toward that future actively? Are you doing anything in 2025 to?
Nothing in 25. It's going to take a while to build it and do it right, because it's not the kind of thing you just, when we go out with it, we want it to be just incredible. Like, where your first interaction with it, you're like, wow, this, I get it, this, and I'm doing it myself, and like doing a lot of trial and learning and things like that, and it continues to get better. So, it's to the point now where almost zero feedback from me, lunch, dinner, every night. Don't know what I'm going to eat.
And
Yeah.
right now it's associated with your Aura Ring.
Well, that's some of the new things now. It's like taking Aura Ring data, blood glucose monitoring. I'm getting a blood pressure monitor as well. I'm certainly feeding it my blood tests, stool tests, saliva, knowing what foods you're sensitive to, knowing where you have vitamin deficiencies. I have too much uric acid. I have too much mercury. Okay, it knows that. I don't eat now. Doesn't feed me tuna.
So do you have like a team of doctors analyzing everything you're doing right now in order to create this thing, or?
Yeah, basically, yeah. But it's going to be it's going to be eventually. It's just going to be out there, like So it's a lot of iteration, but AI just tells my chef what to make, and he just follows it. So AI is feeding me lunch and dinner every day. So it is coming, and believe me, it's so freeing to not have to think about food. You just basically say a 6 o'clock dinner, and then you sit down, and there it is.
Yeah.
And you love it. And if you have a favorite dish, you can say, I love this. AI knows that, it remembers, but it doesn't give you the food you love every day, because then you get sick of it, right? So it kind of knows, and it's learning how often to feed your favorite dish. And so now it's to the point where I'm like, wow, I'm really craving my favorite dish. Like that night or the next night, boom, it shows up. It's like unbelievable. And there's enough variety where your brain has a hard time remembering all the meals that you've ever had that you like to pull from. AI doesn't have a problem. It knows everything. So there's so much more variety and there's so much more delight because the human brain just can't, like when you think about what do I want for dinner? And then somebody says something, oh yeah, that's right. I haven't had that in a while. Yeah, let's do that. AI doesn't have to like recall something. It's all automatic. So I think this is the future. I think the world is going to be way healthier. I think plenty of people suffering unnecessarily. Like, you know, my daughter had celiac disease and didn't know it for many years. This is something that would be picked up with AI very quickly, that you have a problem with gluten. Some people react to sugar a certain way. Some people have certain food sensitivities, allergies, heavy metal issues. Like there's lots of issues that people are struggling with that are all food related. And AI will be able to figure that out and be able to like feed you in a way that is best for your body through iteration. And that's like something that could make the entire world healthier, right? It's like once AI understands the foods that you have access to, it could then design a meal for you. Now, if Wonder's in your area, Wonder could actually deliver everything, the groceries or the meal kits or the food cooked or whatever, or make reservations. But in places where Wonder's not available, it could still tell you what to eat. You're just going to have to go get the food yourself.
Thank you. You just mentioned celiac. I have a son that has celiac as well, and gluten. When you mentioned that everything is cooked in one place, and you also mentioned all of the upsides, the benefits of AI. When you mention celiac, I think of contamination, right? Mm-hmm. It can't be cooked in the same place, but you mentioned that everything is in-house and it's in one place. Could you talk a little bit about some of the risks that you see in I guess in some of the things that you mentioned, and I'm not to be a Debbie Downer, but it's not all upside.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. Like in that case, no, if you have celiac, AI wouldn't send you meals from Wonder's first-party business. It would send you a meal from a gluten-free, celiac-safe restaurant, Modern Bread and Bagel, for example, if you know that in the city, which is a great celiac safe place. Or it'll send you groceries and you can have to make your own meal that's safe, that knows, okay, soy sauce has gluten in it, don't give that, it'll know all the ingredients and send you it. So don't think of Wonder being able to solve all the ways in which people eat as a first party. It's the Wonder platform and the access to all the food in that's available, whether it be through a grocery store, through a restaurant or whatever. But it would know that your son has celiac, and it would be telling him the meals to eat that are celiac safe every meal. But if you didn't know he had celiac and you were eating gluten, the body would react in an inflammatory way that would be picked up by AI and would be able to draw the conclusion much faster than a doctor. Like my daughter had to have a full endoscopy. Had to go under, had to do the whole thing. I mean, that's not necessary. Like you're going to know just from how your body reacts to certain foods, whether or not those foods work for you. But celiac is more extreme, but there's just minor inflammatory. There's things that don't work with your own gut biome. There's ways to microdose and change your gut biome over time. AI is going to know that. Right now, AI is microdosing me on some stuff to rebuild my gut biome. So I'll just do whatever it says. I'm eating my meal, it's great. And they're like, okay, and take 2 tablespoons of quinoa. I'll do that, It's like I trust it. But it's going to get so much smarter in time.
I'm such a reporter. I was like, well, there's the headline. AI, Marc Lore, AI is microdosing me. Anyway, it's a much bigger vision that you're pitching. I think we should probably let him go. Anybody else have one more? Okay, one more.
One more, since I have the mic.
Oh, thanks.
So quick question about you as a leader. So this is your 3rd startup. We've all been listening, I'm sure, to Brian Chesky and his founder mode, and leadership is presence, not absence, and how he spends every day reviewing other people's work. do you have like an ethos or a leadership style, or how do you spend your day?
Yeah, the founder mode thing didn't really resonate with me because I operate differently. So I don't think there's any right way to do it. I think there's just different ways. I really focus on this idea of VCP, Vision Capital People, and I think we have a meeting every week with the leadership team, and we spend 2 hours every week just on the foundational elements of VCP: vision, strategy, org structure, the capital plan, the performance management systems, compensation systems, behaviors, values, like stuff that you think is already set. You're like, oh yeah, we already did behaviors, we already did values, we did performance management system, we have our strategy. That, when you're growing and moving fast, it's amazing how much that evolves over time, and you want to kind of stay on top of it. And when you have your entire leadership team that understands the really specific nuances of the strategy and the vision, and you've really ironed out the org structure, and you've ironed out the behaviors and traits that you value, and the right mission and the right performance management and compensation system, and you've got the capital plan, and everything's dialed in, and we have a room, and there's whiteboards on every wall, and you have on every wall, you have it written out, the strategy, the vision, the org structure's on the wall, everybody's color-coded by level so you can quickly see if there's an issue with the org structure, the capital plan's laid out, everything's on the wall, and we just talk about it, and I think when you get everybody fully aligned, and you have really good people, and again, you're recruiting the very best people, you're getting the very best they have to give, they're in the right org structure, and they really understand the nuances of strategy and vision, you just let them run. I don't need to be involved at all. It just happens exactly the way you want it to happen. And so it's a little bit different than, I don't at all get involved in the specifics of what people do, as long as I know that they know the nuances of the strategy and the vision. That's where you get a thing, you're like, wait, why are you doing that? And let me tell you, no, I don't like that. Why don't you like it? You don't like it because it's like differs in the strategy you have in your mind, but the person doesn't really understand. So that's why they're doing something different. When they understand the nuances of it, like what does it mean when you say very in a strategy statement? Every word has meaning, and the nuances of that word are really important. And when you get that dialed in with your team, and then they dial in their team, everybody's moving in the right direction. I'm also really, really big on hiring rock stars. Like that is every person. I used to think that you can interview somebody, and in an hour decide whether this person's a rock star. I really thought that, and I think other people do as well. Impossible. I've hired thousands of people. You cannot tell if somebody's a rock star in a 1 hour interview. And more times than not, you'll get honeypotted. Somebody talks a good game, they sound good, they say the right things, they've got the right experience, and they don't work out, and you wonder why. And I started going back to the resumes and trying to draw correlations. And what I found is there's a clear pattern that superstars have in resumes. A certain resume that superstars have that's differentiated from a non-superstar. It doesn't mean that somebody that doesn't have a superstar resume couldn't be a superstar, and I miss out on those people, it's fine. But when I see somebody that has a superstar resume, they're almost always a superstar. So when I interview them, I already know I want to hire them, and it's more just for make sure that there's nothing I'm missing from behavior standpoint or culture values and alignment there. But the resume has to show a demonstrable level of success in every job that they were in. And that means multiple promotions. It means staying at a company long enough to get promoted. And it means when you leave and go from one company to another, it's a big move. Superstars don't move laterally. They don't move from one company to another. They don't move down from a good company to a bad company, because bad companies need to pay more to attract people, and so sometimes they shake loose people that aren't as good, that just want to go for the money. You find somebody that's top 5%, and you look at their resume, it's like boom, boom, promotion, 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 and then a big jump, promotion, promotion, big jump. And I know I say this to people, and people are like, oh, I'm a superstar. My resume doesn't look like that. You can be a superstar and not have that kind of resume, and I miss those people. But when I get that resume that shows that demonstrable level of success, I grab it and I pay them whatever they need. Like it's that important to me to get that superstar in there. And you build a company of superstars and you have the right performance management system so that they know exactly what they need to do to get to the next level, because the superstars are highly motivated. They want to know what they need to do to get to the next level. You need to have a performance management system, especially for Gen Z. They want to know and get promoted every 6 months. We feed into that. We have a Taekwondo-based performance management system where if you come in right out of school, you can get promoted every 6 months of the first 6 years of your career. And it's out there. They can see it. They know exactly what they need to do, what scores they need to get promoted every 6 months. And we use Taekwondo belts. So you start off white belt, yellow belt 2, 3, green belt, you go like that. And it's very motivating to know exactly what you need to do to get to the next level. Most companies, it's kind of a black box. You don't know how the promotions work. It's very clear. It's very transparent. Everybody in the company knows what everyone else is making. It's on the wall. You can go and see everyone's comp. It's very transparent. Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
It's fascinating. No, I was going to say, God, I think we all want to stay another hour and hear your lessons on how to run a company.
I guess that was a question about a different philosophy than the founder mode thing.
Yeah, and you also have this other philosophy I know about, sort of bigger financial risks, being able sort of to protect the company in ways, but that's another path that I'm sure you're.
Oh, the risk stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people always underestimate the risk of the status quo, and they overestimate the risk of making a change. And I see that over and over and over, and especially in a startup, you have to be objective about where you are in the risk spectrum. And I think it's easy to understand if you have some sort of life-threatening medical condition, and the doctor's like, yeah, you have 6 months to live. At that point, a trial drug, any kind of, it doesn't matter, even if it's super risky, it really doesn't matter if the doctor tells you have 6 months to live. So you're way out here on the risk spectrum. You're basically seeking opportunities to take risk to not have the inevitable death. If you're super healthy and everything's going great and somebody says, take this experimental, it might make you live longer, you're like, you know what? It's too risky. I'm really healthy. I don't want to die from this drug. You're over here on the risk spectrum. Startups are very different than big companies. And you have to know and be objective as a startup founder that chances are you're going to die. Like when you do a startup, the chances are you're going to die. Every day that you're living and doing this startup, you have to know, no, my probability of dying is 80% or whatever, only 20% chance of this actually working. So you have to take that into account when you're making decisions. You have to seek opportunities to take risk to reduce your risk of dying. Seek risk. And the status quo is the worst thing you can do in a startup. Like being afraid to take a risk because it's risky? No. Just doing nothing is the most risk you can possibly take. When you're at a big company like Walmart, which I've been at, it's all about incremental improvement. There's no incentive to take risk because you want to be 95% sure you can do a little bit better, and that's fine. And you'll just keep moving the stock price up quarter to quarter, and that's good. So I think people don't think about where they are on the risk spectrum when they make decisions. Even law firms. When law firms give you advice, the law firm has no idea where you are on the risk spectrum. So I'll talk to the lawyer. I'll say, listen, it's sort of a gray area. I wouldn't recommend it. It's risky. Okay, lawyers said it's risky.
Let's do it.
We're out. No, I'm saying most people okay, we're out. Right. But no, actually the business risk of not taking that legal risk is way higher, right? When you're at a big company, there's no reason to take legal risk. Everything's fine. If you don't take that, it's fine. So I think it comes up every single day for me. Every day, there's some decision, something that would ordinarily be risky, that to me looks like an opportunity to take risk, to actually reduce the risk that is doing nothing. So, sorry.
Oh, well, Grubhub, obviously.
I could talk about this stuff all day.
I know, and I could listen to you all day, but I know you've had a very long day. I so appreciate you've been so generous with your time, Marc. I just have loved this. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for coming and listening. You're terrific. And I'm really Eager to see your next risk, or your next, the risks you take on as you're continuing with Wonder.